My name is Dan Morrow. I'm the Criminal Operations Officer here in the province of Nova Scotia.
Across Morrow's 33 years of experience as a police officer with the RCMP, he says one case has stood out to him: the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, Nova Scotia siblings who went missing from their home in Pictou County back in May.
From the outside looking in, this case seemed really rare to the public. Is it a rare one for officers as well?
It's extremely rare. I've never seen it across my career. But while it's rare, what's the part that isn't rare is the complexity of the case, like why it's taking so long, because these investigations have to be done in a methodical approach. It started to generate a lot of national media attention and even international.
Did the RCMP find that difficult to manage?
Basically, anybody that was involved with that investigation felt that elevated level of concern.
The case captured worldwide attention, putting the small community of Lansdowne Station on the map and officers under the microscope.
Why do you think so many people from even other countries were so captivated by the details of their disappearance?
Anyone who has children, obviously, from a parental aspect, it deepens that level of concern internally. What happens if it was my child, for instance? Just that initial reaction from a parental perspective would escalate that concern, obviously.
Can you go over how many tips you've received thus far in the Jack and Lilly investigation, as well as how many formal interviews have been conducted by RCMP?
There's been 1,030 tips received, and approximately 86 formal interviews have been completed within the investigation as well. That's sitting down, interviewing a person, not something that's a casual conversation while we bump into somebody along the street. It's a sit-down, structured interview, obtaining what the person knows firsthand. There's also been roughly over 8,100 functioning videos that have been actually reviewed by the team that's supervising the investigation. So there's been a lot of work conducted behind the scenes. It's been documented that 7 people have completed polygraph examinations. All 7 were found to be not lying.
The case is still considered a missing persons investigation despite the involvement of major crimes.
Would you say that this was the biggest case that Nova Scotia RCMP had to cover this year?
Yeah, it's certainly one of the most prominent ones within the province in the past year. Right. Touched a lot of people.
But the case of 2 missing children wasn't the only one that touched the hearts of Nova Scotians this year. At the beginning of 2025, intimate partner violence-related homicides were happening at an alarming rate.
The approach to intimate partner violence has changed drastically since I started as an officer.
If you have the numbers on hand, how many intimate partner violence related incidents?
There's been roughly over 3,000 intimate partner violences within the last year.
In Nova Scotia?
In Nova Scotia.
Do you have numbers from 2024 for comparison?
So I don't recall the exact numbers, but it's several hundred more. Sometimes it can take up to 30 occurrences for a victim to actually come forward.
I'm curious your thoughts on this. How do you think the Mass Casualty Commission's final report has influenced RCMP's police work in Nova Scotia over the last year?
So victims often fear loss of their friends, their social groups, their networks when they report an intimate partner violence against their spouse or significant other. It's about challenging those barriers, how we collaborate and support victims on the initial trauma-informed approach, for instance. That's what the theme is about how we engage our victims and support them through the process.
Are there things the Nova Scotia RCMP has changed in terms of your own protocol this past year that come to mind around intimate partner violence?
We've hired more victim services case coordinators, more intimate partner violence investigators, and that's really going to assist with the high-risk case coordination that occurs within the province, and also how we collaborate with our external stakeholders on supporting the victims and family through those crises.
And those hirings happened in the past year or so?
That is correct, within 2025.
And when we say you've hired new investigators, does that mean these are new people that are coming in, or are officers getting restructured duties?
Right, no, these are what we refer to as net new positions.
How would the Nova Scotia RCMP like to better their work to serve survivors and victims of intimate partner violence moving forward?
Now we are approaching in a trauma-informed approach, supporting the victim as best as possible in the early stages, and some of those outcomes really are victim-led. So that is how we're kind of shifting our focus.
Another RCMP department that found themselves busy this year was the Human Trafficking Unit.
How did human trafficking instances change between 2024 and 2025 within Nova Scotia?
So in 2025, there was 50 investigations that the Human Trafficking Unit was the lead on. And when we compare that to 2024, there was 60 investigations, so it was a drop of 10. But again, similar to the intimate partner violence, this is the number of investigations that they participated in. There could have been more that another agency or another detachment was the lead on.
A recent Stats Canada report found Nova Scotia has the highest rate of human trafficking in the country, at 4.1 reported incidents per 100,000 people.
What is the RCMP doing to try to mitigate that here in Nova Scotia?
The Human Trafficking Unit created a new position called a Community Program Officer, and this is going to be key for us into how we engage with some of our communities. What we have found is that our Mi'kmaq and African Nova Scotian communities are disproportionately affected. So the Community Program Officer is going to look for ways to engage with those communities.
Overall, crime increased slightly across the province in 2025, with harassment, voyeurism, distribution of indecent images, and child luring increasing significantly since 2024. Instances of assault also rose across the board.
Violent crime seems to be on an uptick from just looking at that year-to-year comparison. Why do you think that's the case, or is this due to a number of factors?
So broadly speaking, yes, it has risen within the province of Nova Scotia. I want to assure Nova Scotians that this is a very safe province to live in. Crime itself is very complex, and so when we have to look at the provincial landscape, we often talk about housing or food insecurity, mental health challenges. There's so many social factors in the background for the root causes that we need other people's help or other agencies' assistance to tackle those root causes.
A collaborative effort the RCMP plan to continue in 2026. Ella MacDonald, Global News, Dartmouth.